recording.
And we're talking lore.
and we're and we're talking lore. Um. Okay, I think we're live.
Maybe.
Nice. Yeah, maybe, maybe not.
I think so.
It's hilarious. This I tried Instagram for the first time. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly I'm doing, but let me tell you something. You your face is in it. I don't know if I can.
But your elephant?
I don't know if I can get in there. It's hilarious. You're like right there. That's so funny. Okay, it doesn't matter. Um, so welcome to Let's Talk Lore, where we talk
Welcome.
about Dungeons and Dragons happenings and things, and
Hmm.
how we, as dungeon masters and players, recommend you play it depending on who you are, and hopefully what we have to tell you increases your fun and gameplay experience. I'm Spencer.
Ah,
This is Chris. Where are you here?
do
And
I have no idea.
Chris, yeah, what are we talking about tonight?
Today we're talking about one of your favorite things is random tables, but more specifically your random tables with NPCs or random tables in the middle of the game, and how do you prepare for them?
So one of the things that I was experiencing as a DM was that I was prepared for my sessions, and I would over prepare sometimes, under prepare, whatever. But one of the things that caught me off guard was sometimes, as always, the players don't do what they don't they don't follow the linear path that you've made,
Hmm.
um, and a table of some sort needs to be rolled, or a random happening needs to come to fruition, and I you know during the gameplay I would say, oh, I wouldn't actually say anything. I think I was being a bad DM at that point, but I wouldn't have anything to do, so I would scrounge around quickly, try to figure something out, and more than often I would just randomly make it up. But as we were progressing through the gameplay, I found that having these random tables, whether you make each line, whether you make a table of 1 to 10, 1 to 8, 1 to 4, whatever it
Hmm.
is, um, I found that having those random tables adds a different element to the game. It's really fun.
Hmm.
And my question to you was, how do you like prepare? I guess what the reason why I brought this up was, how do you prepare as a dungeon master to have these tables? Like,
Well,
what is it that you do?
so I think it really depends on what kind of table you're looking for. So, like when you just ran in Tricard, where we were going through the city and you had hundreds upon hundreds, I think 4 or 5 D100 tables of random things that could happen in the city. And
Right.
those are tables that you got online or accumulated from somewhere. But something like that is a truly random thing that you're looking to find. Um, then there's other tables of encounters or like encounters on the trail. For example, in I got Tomb Hand and Skulls of Power, the party is going through some mountains,
Right.
and like tailoring your tables to what you're wanting it for. So for the mountains, I don't want a truly completely random environment of anyone upon anything can show up. So I made a specific table for who I thought would be most likely to be wandering through the mountains and um, have a relevance to the story to keep the story moving along. But I think it might just be the way I DM. I always throw an extra element of randomness on top of that.
So you DM your or you prepare your tables sort of, so you have your storyline and you
Hmm.
add random tables that will like no matter what you roll will help you progress, sort of.
I think the best way I think about it, or I can explain how I think about it, is as I'm developing the session or the for this example we're talking about the
Right.
mountains, I'd have different little blocks of regions of for coming into the mountains. I wanted to have a little entrance block. That was where the purple worm area was. And I wanted to have a transitional area. And that was where you guys discovered the giants and the lava tunnel. And then I wanted that to transition into a really random, weird place. And so each one of those I had there's a random table that I developed for the entire mountain set would have various people from the local factions or type of encounters or unique creatures in the region. And so for each one of those, I would roll. I had you guys roll on the table um, to develop them. So I would fine tune like the random encounters for where you're going to be using them. So for like each element or each block in the story that you're progressing, I have a different little, not necessarily different, but scaled back version of one massive random table.
Right. And then the so the way that I did it was we're having a technical difficulty. Here we go. The way that I did it was similar to you. I would I knew where there was an A and there's a B. Like I want you to get from A
Mm,
to B. I would instead of having tables, because the reason why I wanted to ask was because a lot of people use tables, and you can have an NPC table, a random item table, a random event table, a random whatever.
hmm.
And I found that a little bit overwhelming to have in front of you, especially when you're trying to like live gameplay.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
you
even
know,
if you're at a table in front of everyone, oftentimes we don't have that much time throughout the week to all get together and sit down and play. So you want everything to be smooth, not have to run around, grab all your books.
right. And I thought one of the things that I felt like was helpful was I had a random like in the forest and especially on the water, the open
Mm,
water, Act Five. Subscribers, roll high and subscribe. You can find our open water campaign. It's like a 9 segment episode act of our homebrew campaign that we're creating on YouTube. But when I was creating this thing, I decided, okay, instead of having like random tables, and I had my random tables for NPCs and stuff, but instead of having random tables, I would create a map with like, okay, there's going to be this batch of open water, and let me rephrase. The map I had, or restart. The map I had was north, south, east, west, and the island that you guys were trying to get to was, let's say, west over here, and it was a circular map, so it was cut up into pies. So the further you got out, there's another layer. Each one
hmm.
of those layers, and I numbered them and lettered them. So as a DM, in the way I prepared, I created a whole bunch of. I logged online, took a bunch of random events you could have on open water. I was like, okay, there's going to be an island here, and island here. I'll figure those islands out later. But as you traveled, the direction that you went in as a player would determine what random event you had. So you guys were running away from something. It wasn't the Kraken. It was something else, and you guys decided to go south because I think you were trying to get to land or whatever. And it turned out that like a hurricane came. Like that was the
No,
random. That
it
was the
wasn't a
random.
hurricane. It was the whale.
Oh, the whale. Yeah, the random whale too. Yeah.
We
Um,
were a day away from getting to shore, finally evading the Kraken when a whale came and threw us the opposite direction 3 days.
right. I mean, it was hilarious,
It
but
was perfect.
I think that like your tables don't necessarily have to be tables. Is all I'm saying. The
Well, yeah,
idea of the table, the principle of the table, should be something that um, I think everyone should follow, and like the randomness of it. But you can, as a
hmm
DM, sort of plot it out on a map, and as the players go left or right, or up or down, or they want to go through the door or up, climb the ladder, or whatever it is. Especially when you're in an open world campaign like we're doing, the random aspect of those tables sort of comes into place. I know the tables, and you know what? If it gets boring, you can sort of change it as you are God. DMs are gods, um,
you are
but
the god.
I think that like the tables as a whole, I don't know. I don't know if you need every single one of them, but I do still find myself when I use my way of doing it, I do find myself stopping and needing to look something up or find something that I need. And my question to you was, what do you think? What do you think the tables that you should have in front of you as a DM? Like, let's say that there are three. You can't
Right.
have. I don't think you can have like more than three. Maybe more. Maybe less.
I th the baseline from everything that you're explaining to me is that added element of randomness into your game to whatever's happening. Um, so your table doesn't have to be large. It can be small, but I think I the last two sessions I only have one real table, my encounter table, and that's all kinds of encounters in there. Um, but that's just the way I love to run my randomness. You don't need a encounter table to add bits of randomness into it. I think for me, having all of that planned out ahead of time is easier and more anxiety relieving to know that I can roll a die, look on here, and I have something already completely planned out.
Right.
But I wouldn't say you need a table to do that or to have something. You can plan a full session out with no randomness planned in there. And just by the players playing, they're going to add random who knows what in there. Just
True.
like the simple encounter that you guys had this last game, you met a couple people who your character knew wandering aimlessly through the mountains. And in my head, and with the table that you happen to be, I was like, oh, some friendly people that you would probably know are going to be here. So this will probably be a quick interaction. You'll say hello, send them on their way, and they'll give you some directions or something. I had no idea it would turn into a 20-minute interrogation torture session. And in the end, all three Hall of Fame baseball players were no longer with you in the campaign.
Yeah, Mark McGuire. Um, yeah. So okay, I think how would I do the takeaway from this table conversation? Because there are so many different
It
tables, and we're going to come back to the tables at another at,
find
at another
I,
Let's Talk Roll. But
all I would say is find whatever tables um, help make it easier for you to run the session. Even if you have a book of 10 books right there, but you know where all the tables that you want to use are. Oftentimes I'll have three or four books, but I'll have my notes with the book and the page number of what table I want. So I
yeah,
don't have to have them all open and I'll go flip through and find that one and make it easy.
Chris,
But
your
find,
your video. I don't want to cut you off, but your video camera. I think it might have been something I did. Um, is cutting your face off, and everyone needs to see your beautiful face. Oh, look at that guy! Look at that guy. Okay, go back to what we were talking about. Tables. Go. Pretend like I didn't
so
even say anything.
um,
We should do one where it's half my face, half your face. But get
no, absolutely not. That's terrible.
and you roll. You
But
roll for who?
I,
Okay.
you said what tables should you have? I'd say any amount of tables that you need to make the game easier for you to run.
Yes.
I personally like one big table that it's all of my prep is building that encounter table, or most of my prep is building that encounter table because
Wow.
the minute to minute interaction in the game is, especially the way that we play, is a lot of improv, is a lot of just dialogue communication, and there's not much more than that table, maybe an information sheet, but that's just the history, the background, the plot that I have going along. I
Interesting.
like one table, but my table's a mashup of like three, and each number on there has like a two or three nested tables within it.
I think you and I are similar in the sense that we like to have one like table.
Like one place
Um,
to go to for random things.
right. And I feel like that random table, no matter what you pick, because you're going to still, the way I do it is just like the map I was telling you about, I have A, B, C, D, and then I have one, two, three, and then I have probably A, B, C, D again. Um, but they're all, no matter what you do, going to lead somewhere. To hopefully to, sometimes it'll
Yeah.
split out, but lead to that point. And I think the randomness of the table, bringing that to the group, gives the group a little bit more power, and um, I think that is the player engagement aspect of the table. And if you're doing it streaming online like we play versus on the table, I feel like online it detracts a little bit from that interaction, from that player engagement. But if you do it correctly online, it's still the same. And I just feel like that, you're going to roll to see where you go. And I try to do that. And I try to tell everyone, okay, now we've we've resolved the situation with the storm, and in the way that I describe it, this the you get past the rain falling on you lightens up to a drizzle, and the sun breaks out from the skies, and the water's calm, and now you are, let's roll random uh, a random like weather, or a random encounter, or a random
Mm-hmm.
puzzle. And I usually try to do it when I make my maps, not to get too caught up on my map, because I eventually have to give the map up. But the maps always have like your puzzles, your traps, your encounters, and then your like weather or your environment.
Environmental. Yeah.
And then I roll a d4, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what you get. And I think like, so those four things I just said, maybe instead I said three, but maybe those four things are all I need.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in an open water thing. So like, if you're in a small little cave or a town,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
You can still have I say keep your environmental thing for sure, because that adds.
And it also depends on if you're trying to tell a story, if you're just open
Right.
to just completely randomness happening, then get that D100 table of random encounters and see some random fairies pop up in the elemental plane of fire. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I guess, would you say, to sum up the table? Oh, my favorite table was. I asked everyone in my group. I asked all the players, give me your favorite video game, the favorite uh, episode of Game of Thrones, and then like a couple sci-fi movies. And you guys
Hmm.
all responded to that. I have them on
Hmm.
my cheat sheet somewhere. And if I really need to spice things up, and I as a dungeon master am getting bored, I will randomly say there's a vortex, and that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So like, you might find yourself, just like we were fighting the tank in Metal Gear Solid, just like
Hmm.
we were fighting Bowser
So,
from
Mario.
Mario N64. Um, that's my thing. But I think, what do you think the summary here should be for a
Find,
DM for tables?
don't, I think the gist is don't let your tables make things more complicated. Let randomness be something that is easier to implement into your game. If you have a table, figure out what those each of those encounters might look like before you sit down to roll on it. If you're picking which table to do and you read through everything, imagine what each one of those might be. Or if you're building your own table, each bit of your prep of building those encounters is already solved in that table as you build it. So let your table, however many you have, make the game easier to run for you instead of more challenging.
I always love how you sum up the Let's Talk Lore episodes. They're perfectly executed because I try to sum them up and then I ADHD tangent onto Mario video games and stuff. But yeah.
I was close to tangenting a couple places there.
Also, just to think about before we move on to our brief break and next topic, one thing that you don't need to do, I have noticed that when I play, I feel immense pressure from the group to have a response that has been planned, and it's not planned. So when you open something and I have to roll and now there's an encounter, or it is completely random and I don't know, and so now we're going to go off a table. Tell the group, give me a second. As a human being, I have not prepared 100% of everything. As normal, I've prepared about 60 to 70% of the Dungeon Master preparation, which is all I think you really need. Give me a second to look this up and see where we're going, and pick a table or quickly look online. Let the players talk, and then do it. You don't have to have this anxiety because it is a game and you're a person and so are they. They'll chill out. They're waiting eagerly, and it's
Something I love to do in those moments are, like you said, let everyone know, all right, I need a moment to figure this out, but then give them a prompt of encouraging role play in some way of, oh, player A, you notice something on player B's pants, or you notice
that's cool.
that they drop the weapon, and then let that role play out while you're figuring everything else out. And
that
then
is really cool.
when the moment's right, jump in with that encounter. And I think that's a perfect set for our next topic
That's
about how
hilarious.
to incorporate randomness into the story and not have it feel so random.
Wow, you're gonna blow my mind in that next topic. But here's a prompt for everyone. While you're looking for the table that you need to choose from in order to get the perfect D20, the perfect 20 options, why don't you roll high and subscribe? There's a button right over there. Roll high and subscribe. We'll be right back. Tables. Need them, want them, don't necessarily have to have them. Yeah, use them, definitely. And we're going to keep this one rolling as we have decided to do.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So I'm sitting at the one half of my desk, and it's natural for me to shift over towards the center.
That light, how big is your light, can I ask?
My ring light?
Yeah.
I'll show you, send you a picture.
I can already see a quarter of it. So
you can see it in my eye.
See, I need one that's like, not, yours is like this big, but the one I have is this big.
Ours we got for like $10 from TJ Maxx 8 years ago or something.
Listen, if it works. Well, next time I'm going to do it like this. That's hilarious.
There.
All right, so
there's my ring light.
Let's see this ring light. All right, so what was the next topic we're going to talk about so I can briefly
how do you incorporate that randomness? Do you have your table? People are walking down the path. All right, something random completely happens. How do you make that fluid transition into your random story?
This is a
And
nice. Look at that.
hmm
Look at that ring light.
yeah.
It's beautiful. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Your
No, and
it
how
was
do
your
you
ADHD.
incorporate that to just like what you were saying, not have that downtime, not have it feel awkward of like why the like this doesn't make sense, shouldn't make sense in the story, and you just pick some random thing.
So how do you create randomness without
How do you incorporate
hurting
randomness?
player engagement? Right? Because
How do
what
you keep randomness engaging rather than distracting or
interesting.
something along those lines?
Because when you have to stop something, you have to disengage and then re-engage, and that little action could cause a hiccup in everyone's. The players are sitting there ready.
hmm Well, everyone has the story going on in their head,
Interesting.
and when that randomness comes, you want that story, that video, that play going on in their head to keep going fluid without interruption. And a lot of times when you get that break in time of let me figure out how this is going to happen, or all right, randomly a giant rock falls out of the sky, like things that make no sense in the story, or you're in a cave and a moonlight shines down 200 feet below the earth, or it starts raining. There's ways to incorporate that into the environment you're in, into the story you already have going on.
This is going to be interesting because I think we have different takes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they're closer than you might think.
All right. Well, let's do it. I didn't do my let's talk lore.
Dungeon
But
Doomheads,
Intro.
Let's
yeah, I mean
Talk
here
Lore,
it goes.
a podcast.
Let's talk lore. Welcome back from our brief intermission.
Intermission.
Yeah, Chris.
I'm Chris. That's Spencer. Roll high and subscribe.
Roll high and subscribe. Chris, what are we talking about today? We just talked about tables.
We talked about having our randomness, that our tables of rolling and seeing what happens. Now we're going to talk about how we can incorporate that more fluidly into the story, into the session, into the the tale we're weaving. How do you like to try and do that, Spencer?
I said before, so the randomness. So the way that I do my DMing and my prep is that we play an open world, but the whole world itself sort of runs like a normal dungeon. The way that I do my prep is that I create the tables and then I randomize each area that you could go to. So imagine a dungeon. I have 10 rooms. I have now 10 I have now a table of 10. I'm going to make the table of 10 uh, two puzzles, two fights, two this, two
Mm-hmm.
that, to the other thing, and that's the randomness. And then I have A, B, C, D of the rooms. So when you open it, I know when I roll it, or I'll say, "Hey, Chris," during the "Hey, Lone Star, roll me a D10." You don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's to see what room you're going into. That will tell the player it's going to be random. They'll know that I have prepared it, but that I don't know of perchance what is going to be coming up. They
Mm-hmm.
roll it, and we go off of my table. However, there is that brief moment of, and I like to call it disengaging or disengagement. If a player is running from something and they get to the door, I want to run out of this room. I just saw two people die. I need to get the hell out of here. There is someone following us. Let's get to the door and open. Hey, Chris, roll me a d20 and see what's on the other
Hmm.
side. If I have to scrounge around for that table, if I'm not prepared, that disengages, and that randomness sort of hurts, in my perspective, the engagement for the
Hmm.
players. What do you do for your random? You
Well,
know,
I think we do something very similar, and a lot of that is in the prep that we do. Is the tables or the locations that we're setting up, we're trying to make them all fit in. And I think most DMs do that, is they try to make everything seem like one cohesive unit of a dungeon or a city or wherever you are. I think the key to really getting that deep immersion is having some time to allow the story to continue after you ask them for that role so that you have time to get everything set up. The story can continue, but you can say, be looking at your table, have them roll that. Say they're running down the path away from something. I'm going to go run to the door to bang on it. I'm like, okay, roll your d20. That's what's going to be in the next room. Okay, what are you doing when you're going to the door? All right, and you're checking your table and sorting everything else out
something.
while they're describing how they're interacting with the door. So give the player something to do
while you're
while that
searching.
downtime, that the dead time would be there, and then
Interesting.
taking the lead from them of whatever they're doing, interacting directly with that action, with the result of what the table is. Say they rolled and it's a completely empty room. So they bang on the door and they say they're going to be banging on the door and try and kick it open. All right, so they bang on the door and they kick it open. They hear an echo go echoing through the room, and an eerie silence or a breeze comes in. So give them something to for you to work off of when that randomness does come in.
Here's an idea. Chris,
Yeah.
there's a fire. You are a character.
Okay.
You are in a dungeon. There is a fire behind you, and there is a door in front of you. The fire is getting very hot.
Okay.
What do you do?
Um, no windows. There's only one door. Fire's hot. I don't have anything around me that I could put it out with. So I'm probably gonna get out of here, go to the door. Um, so I will go to the door, check for the door handle. Since I know there's a fire here, I'll check the doorknob to see if the doorknob's hot on the other side, and listen to the door.
You roll me a perception,
Okay,
and
I roll my perception.
that perception is good enough. Passive perception. You hear. You hear. You don't hear anything from the other side, but the door, when you push your ear up to it, is cold.
All right, so I'll push the door open and walk through.
Okay. Now I have nothing planned.
Right.
So what Chris is saying is, as you're opening the door, you look back and you see the flames are now bursting towards you, towards the door, as the fire is trying to eat up the oxygen, and it's flowing towards you. And in the flame, you see something of your past. What is it that you see? At that moment, the DM can go look for the tables and figure out what the hell is going to be
Mm-hmm.
in that room.
Yep.
It gives the player
So
the yeah.
before you say that, so as you start to walk, you open the door. All right, roll me a d20. Okay, I roll it, give you that result, and then you do that whole explanation, leaving them there. Yeah, that it works great.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's a pretty fucking solid
Yeah.
excuse my French for those of you who are under 18, or whatever PG is. Um, that's a pretty sick way of handling things.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to remember that. Oh, hey, you walk into a bar and it's filled with people. You notice your shoelace is untied. It could. I mean, it
Well,
doesn't have to be like
yeah.
but
Anything, or it could be like, roll me your D20, and you notice that your party member's shoes are untied.
yeah, yeah.
You notice that sword that was once yours tucked inside of their jacket.
Letting the players get involved is such a strong way of keeping them engaged during that lookup. Who the
Hmm.
hell, Chris? You're like a guru. I had no idea you had the power here. I at the very beginning, if you remember, and I'm gonna try to quote myself. I said the problem with tables that I have is that when I look through them, they are disengaging to the players. But here
Hmm.
you are coming with a perfect way to keep them engaged. And what a better way than to ask them to talk about themselves or their players? I mean, could you imagine if you had a warlock and it was the same situation? The fire was coming. They opened the door and they looked into the fire and they saw
Their patron.
their patron, and the patron said something. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, you'd have to the patron would only be talking to the group, and you'd have to say the
Right.
patron says something to you. But we're not going to, meta game. You just have it say it to you, and
Yeah.
the group will know,
Yeah.
and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That is really an excellent recommendation. And for those of you who agree, roll high and subscribe. But I
But
mean,
you can
that's
also do
sick.
that for any random encounter too. So you're on a trail and roll me your random encounter, and uh, you get a fight with, or that's not necessarily a fight. And this is how I do my tables. I just put creatures, and how you interact with them dictates how they interact with you. Like the guards, they in my head they're going to be super friendly, but you guys want to kill them all. Um, so say yeah, a
I
hurt.
was I was trying to become part of the group. I thought that that's what
Yeah,
they wanted, but indeed they did not.
yeah.
That was my fault.
So it's like you're walking on the trail. All right, roll me your D12. All right. So as you're coming down the path, you see some berries and a little pool of water and something glinting in the pool of water. Um, and they'll let them interact in some way. Or um, like what you said, you see the fire. And what do you see in the fire? Or uh, how do you How do you walk down the path? What side of the path do you walk on? Why do you walk over there? Let them. I really love the idea that you brought up of asking the players questions.
Oh yeah,
Let them talk about themselves.
that's that's also one of
Yeah.
the things that I had sort of so for like the random the topic here is to like how you how you do random play but keep it moving, keep it
Mm.
engaging. One of the things that I always like to do is when I am randomly, one of the things that I started to do, and I didn't realize I started to do this until you brought this out, which is the same thing. We get into a room and it smells like moss or rot. Chris, go ahead, or Aaron, go ahead and describe the
The room.
smell and the
Hmm.
room. Yeah, describe the room.
I love
Let
that.
the players describe the room.
Hmm.
Then you can, as a DM, let's just say your random encounter said that the room is full of bad guys. Well, there's a corner in the room where they sprawl out from, whatever. Um,
The other little thing that I tip that I always love to have is anything that comes up on your random table is canon, and you have to figure out how to incorporate that into your story. I was running what was it? Dragon of Icespire Peak. And I got a beautiful brand of new random table book that I was very excited to use and didn't really look into it too well ahead of time. And randomly, there's a bunch of ogres pulling crates behind them, and they're walking up a mountain to, spoilers, to the giant castle where the dragon was. And I'm like, okay, this is canon now. How the hell am I going to incorporate this into the story? I gave them something to distract them while I figured it out. And it just so happened to be they were had cages of slaves that had some other connection to the rest of the town or to some other part of the story. So it's every if you do let it truly be random, everything that's in there has a purpose in there, is part of the greater story that the players are creating.
It's so cool. I mean, okay, so when you do your randomness, you don't always and like need to create a random event that you're unprepared for. You don't always need to rely on your players, but they are there and it's
Mm-hmm.
easy and it doesn't always have to be tell me you look into the fire and uh you look into the fire and you see your maker, or you look into the fire and you see a shadow of your mom, or you look into the fire and you see something, or the fire, you look into the fire. It doesn't have to be necessarily relative to the player's backstory. I like to have some things linked to the
Mm-hmm.
backstories because that creates a whole another topic that we can talk about maybe next time about players' backstories and how you interweave them. That's a good place to do it. But it could be something as simple as the fire's coming. You open the door. You run through, and you feel yourself, um, or you turn around. And you see the flames, and it reminds you of an experience you had when you were younger. Share that.
Yeah, I love that.
It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be anything more than that, and it also
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be a meaningful thing like your
Right.
patron tells you to run into the fire and die.
Yeah.
you know, um, that's really cool, and I think that's cool.
I also love to reveal little bits of players' backstories to everyone else in moments like that. Like give the little clue, the breadcrumb, for the other players to get suspicious
Oh
and let
yeah,
them start to squirm.
that's
I
hilarious.
I, I enjoy that.
I think that's so. How do you summarize this, Chris?
Um, don't let the tables bog down your experience. Give yourself time to incorporate the table or the result of your table into the story by bringing your players in to fill that space.
It's not
Let them
just
just,
tables.
yep, not just tables. Any randomness or any part of your story, any progression in your story. Bring your players in to fill that void. Let them talk.
Right.
Ask them questions. Give them the space to have the conversations.
I always say dungeon master preparation. I always used to overdo it to 100%. It should be 60%. In my opinion, for having players of 4 or 5 at a table, they should each encompass about 10%. So you can use them to tell your story. Use them to tell your story.
Yeah,
Use them when you need them. They're
to
there.
tell
They
their
want
story.
to do that. So exactly.
Yeah.
Even if the guy turns around and sees the flame and runs through and closes the door, wow, um, Booterbot 4000 or 3000, 3001 since he had his Booter. For those of you who
Yes,
don't know,
upgrade.
Booterbot is a robot from 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, no, 100 years ago, brought to that came through a time warp to today's. So instead of Booterbot 5000, there's Booterbot 3000. Let's just say Booterbot 3000 closed the door. Booterbot, that was a narrow escape. It reminded you of tell the group while you figure this out, or
Yeah.
and keep everyone engaged. That's the perfect way to
Mm,
do it because everyone wants to hear what Buddha has to say.
yeah.
I love it, and the way I would summarize this particular Let's Talk Lore episode is with randomness. And if you're a DM and you're worried about ruining player engagement or hurting the engagement of the players with your random tables or encounters or however you want to play it, you can just play with one dice and you can just roll and just see where it takes you. Um, use the engagement to fight the disengagement, as Chris was saying, because that's the perfect beauty of the solution, I think.
Mm,
Um, keeping everyone engaged is the way that you keep everyone engaged. It
yeah.
seems seems I didn't even when we first started talking about this, I was like, this is going to be impossible for us to talk about. It's so simple. My God,
I like to
beautiful.
think about it as distracting the players so that I can sort out what to throw at them next.
Yeah, and I like it because I have like 10 pages of notes that I've made on Excel and Word, and I haven't numbered them, and they're all everything's there, but I don't know
Don't know
where.
where it is.
Yeah, it's there somewhere, and I find it too late, but whatever, it's okay. Um, so there you go. How do you keep players engaged during random encounters and using random tables? Um, pretty,
Use the players.
yeah. Use the players. Chris, that was a good conversation about it. That was awesome. Roll high and subscribe. There's a button there. Boom. Click that thing. We were going to take a brief intermission and then we're going to have a special, very hilarious character building um, right after
I'm
this.
excited.
Right after this brief intermission. Talk about that was a good one, Chris.
Oh, I didn't know where that was going.
I had no idea either. You were like, "Let's talk about randomness." I'm like, "Oh shit, he's gone off on it in a Zen moment. Let him rip." And you're so right. It's insane. Um. Okay. I wanted to create this guy. What was his name?
I don't think you gave him a name.
Well,
He was in that first room in the ball temple, shaking Moses' hand.
no. Okay, so is the Moses
Yeah,
Moses is uh
king,
the true not even king. I like to say
ruler, or
because
something.
in my world,
Politician.
yes, in my world, the underworld is more political than it is hierarchy. So
Hmm.
people vote, unfortunately, but it is the way it is.
Unfortunately.
Um, and there's a lot of cheating and a lot of stuff like that. Uh, but
Sounds familiar.
unfortunately, the entire underworld, at least the mid level, is run by, in my mind, the Sith, which would be the Drow Empire, and I'm going to blow that world open at some point. But Moses is actually the keeper there, and I've noticed that I have a theme in my campaign, which is like anti-slavery, free. I think most people do that too. Anti that type of establishment, like the imperialist establishment.
Mm.
But the Drow is very much that. And I wanted the leader. I wanted Moses's opposite to make him, who we haven't met, we haven't heard anything about him. But I'd like his name. Um, let's do names for. I mean, the Drow are elves, right? So
Yeah. Well, that first room, you had the three pictures on the wall of Sprock's father shaking hands with this
Moses,
guy.
yes.
not
Oh
this
yeah.
guy, and then shaking hands with Morosis, and then shaking hands with um my elder brain, forget his name.
Um,
Quasimodo.
yes.
Lumerthric.
Lumithric. Wow, there you go. Cool.
Um,
Cool point. One cool point to you.
I'll take it. Uh, but we did see a picture of him. I don't think you gave a name. I don't think there's a name. It was just a description.
All right.
So
So
the name's the last thing we do.
yes. Okay. This is what we're gonna do.
We're going backwards.
The first thing we're gonna
Dungeon
do
Doomhands,
is we're gonna hit
Let's
this Let's Talk
Talk
Lore.
Lore, a
Record.
podcast.
Oh yeah. Welcome back.
Live.
Let's Talk Lore. Chris and I are
Let's-
going to be building a character which we have not come across. We haven't even come across their town, who runs the underworld Drow Empire. I'm Spencer. This is Chris. Let's talk lore. Roll high and subscribe. Chris, we usually build our characters name first, and then we do a whole bunch of traits, and then we roll their
Stats.
scores, their stats.
And then we
Um,
figure out how it all works together.
His personality. I was thinking we would do personality first. We'll just work backwards because this
Yeah.
guy's going to be effing insane. That's my plan for him.
Okay.
I want him to be like, I want him to be this weird, like my idea is.
So
Cla-
he had all of his views are contrary to Morosis, correct?
Yeah.
So your underworld is very political, and Morosis is one side, and this guy's the other side.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Morosis is mostly for no slaves. No slaves have like no slaves have the classes and the workers and stuff. But this guy is like a ruthless. He's not ruthless. He's insane. He's gonna be insane. The way that he runs the place is gonna be freaking insane. It's gonna be hilarious. Because the Drow Empire in the underworld, they only care about their one. You know, the underworld doesn't have a lot of water, doesn't have a lot of elements. There's not a lot of trade the further you go down. But what they can trade are bodies. So slavery is a main component of their economic system. So to take that completely away from them would almost ruin them. So
well, when you say insane, I always think of extreme.
Yes.
Of like their actions are extreme.
Yes.
Or compared to what everyone else is doing.
Yep.
What might cause them to go that route? It could be many different. It can be an environmental thing of they interacted with some spore or some creature. Could be they are seeking power. Or they want to build something to memorialize them for all time because they think they're so great, like Lo.
It could be also fear.
Or fear, or they're afraid of the people from up above,
right,
from the land, and they're going to want to try and protect their area as much as possible.
Yeah, and all they know is
or
that
all of that.
The Upper Dark is trading nutrients and water and textile to them for bodies, which the Upper Dark need to produce the textile, whatever, you know, slave trade.
Yeah.
But that's the economy down there. But let's talk about this guy. Now, this guy's the ruler of that. So
yeah.
Every
time I make my big bads, I always go to, if no one interfered with them in any way, what would they do? What is their most important thing they want to do in this world? So what does this guy want to do more than anything else in this world?
Oh, he's insane. So probably.
Here's the thing. What would a normal drow leader in your world want to do
The
as the
normal
leader?
the normal drow leader would want to maintain and keep things going and make sure that his culture and his population is um, uh, watched over
Right.
and happy. This guy is absolutely insane. So maybe
Well, you could go the extreme version of that. So a drow supremacist.
a drow supremacist. Oh, so he's going to be like a
He wants the drow to take over all of the Underdark. Um,
just about to say he wants to go down.
and then he wants to take over all the other
In
layers and make
yes,
drown.
in
Yeah.
his
Mm-hmm.
mind, in his mind, the Upper Dark need their bodies and their so they capture people. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they have a portal somewhere and they just steal people, and then they sell them back up to the Upper Dark for textiles. He is using textiles to go down further, and maybe he wants to get further down because maybe he thinks that there's a shadow down there. Maybe he is.
Maybe he is in search of the Gray Skull.
Maybe his goal is to alternate his reality, which is what the Gray Skull is.
Mm,
You're on fire. Doesn't necessarily need to be that, but once
nope.
someone says that, he's gonna go insane. All right.
Yep.
Okay. So let's
I think
take.
we have his personality and
Yeah.
what he's after.
He wants to. He wants to alter his reality, which means anything but where he's at.
Hmm.
That as a ruler is hilarious. Okay, so let's start off. We have his personality.
So now stats.
I think
Stats, then the tables.
yes, that's in the tables. Okay, I'm going to roll with my handy dandy. Why don't you roll charisma?
I'm going to be using my casino dice since this guy is crazy
That's hilarious.
and gambling in a casino is crazy.
Yeah, it's not advised, but when you win, you win.
Ooh, ooh. 9,
He's not very.
which fits with his insanity.
He thinks he's charismatic.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna write thinks he's charismatic. Everything is gonna be sort of opposite. So he thinks he's
Mm,
charismatic,
yep, but he's
and
not. Wisdom,
let's see, 10, 13. He is
not bad.
wise. He thinks he's charismatic. He knows he lacks a little oomph when he talks. When
Intelligence.
he thinks he's charismatic, but he knows he doesn't please the crowd.
He has the confidence going into the speech, but he has the wisdom to understand that he bombed it at the end.
That's funny.
Ooh, not terrible. 14 intelligence.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Two sixes, a 2, and a 1.
So he knows he
Like
bombs the speeches. He
he has a
has
good he writes really good speeches.
to
He
the
just
wrong
can't
people.
he just can't deliver them and he realizes how bad he is at the end.
He knows. Yeah, that's hilarious. So he knows he thinks he's a charismatic ruler, but he knows the people do not like what he has to say.
Hmm.
But he's intelligent enough to know it doesn't really matter, which also makes it sort of.
Or he's intelligent enough to be insane about it. So he knows people are unhappy about it, but he doesn't care because he believes that he is so smart and his path is the only right path
To keep
forward.
drilling.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Um, Constitution. This guy is gonna die. A 4-3-1-1. So he's got an 8 Constitution. He gets sick a lot.
Well, maybe that's what made him go insane. He got poisoned or something happened.
He has a family he's got a family chromosome, or he's missing a he's missing a chromosome. Maybe that's it. He's missing a chromosome, making him insane.
Potentially.
Is he dexterous?
12.
Not bad.
Not bad. Above average.
When he gives his speeches and he coughs a lot because he's missing that chromosome, he can tell that he's not giving a good speech and knows the crowd doesn't like it, but he thinks he's charismatic.
He catches himself as he stumbles off the stage.
He stumbles and catches himself.
When he hears those boos,
yeah,
it trips him up a little.
They don't boo him because it's not a nine is not
because they don't boo him because they're afraid of him.
Yeah, they're just kind of like they get the eyes. He gets the eyes and strength. 12. So this guy is easy kill. He's not very strong.
So I need to pull up something.
This guy needs a little oomph in him, but okay. So that's the guy. So we've got it. So he thinks he's this ruler of the Underdark, wants to change his reality. He's not happy where he is. He's not going to let people know he's not happy. He thinks he's a lot more charismatic than he is. He's wise enough to know that when he talks and gives orders, people don't like it. He's intelligent enough to give good orders. He is missing a chromosome somewhere that fights off illnesses and whatever. He is meh on strength and dexterity. So which chart? So we always use the Game Master's book of non-player characters until we find something better. But this one seems to be pretty damn good for our use. Which small town should we do? Common folk? Should we do outside, outskirts and outposts, or should we? Do they have an Underdark?
I don't think they have an Underdark one.
Should we do something else?
But
what are you thinking?
I'm thinking a lot of different things about this guy.
Like what?
Like what class he is. I'm thinking he could be a cleric to the Beholder who has the Gray Skull.
He could be. Yeah, he could be.
Or a cleric to Bane secretly.
Well, we'll have to. We're gonna roll for it.
Yeah.
That's why we roll. Roll high and subscribe. All right, let's do. Should we do? Let's do big city.
On my table.
I have it, so I'll read it to you. It's not a big deal. Small town tenants.
Do we want him to come from a small town?
Well, I think he was born and raised in. He's definitely born. You know what? Maybe he was born and raised on the outskirts of the town. So maybe a small town tenant, or maybe even an out. Let's go to the outskirts. Yeah, let's do outskirts because he definitely didn't deserve. I feel like someone had to have died. Oh, you know what? Because Moses is the true heir, or the true mayor, let's say.
Right.
He somehow cheated and got elected, and this is where he is. Let's make him on the outskirts.
Yeah. So
right. Page
200?
Yeah, page 200. Now, we're going to do this backwards.
Right.
So
we'll go third page.
Yeah, third page. Third page. What is he?
What is he carrying?
205. What is he carrying?
Mm-hmm.
That's you.
Me.
Mm-hmm.
An 11.
3 bags of brine, shrimp laced with a deadly toxin.
A brine shrimp laced with a deadly toxin.
3 bags of brine shrimp.
So maybe that's why his constitution is so bad. because he's addicted to some toxic diet.
That's so funny. Or maybe that's how he just like he's intelligent enough to know that he can put poisoned shrimp in a cocktail, like
Or he thinks
a charcuterie board or whatever.
the
And
poison is giving him special powers.
I think that's how he kills his foes. He's not very. He manipulates them and tries to poison them, but he's not very charismatic. So he tries to.
That's how he stays in power by killing all
Yeah,
his other
he tried to have Moses over to kill him with a cocktail hour with shrimp and
mm,
everything,
with a
and
shrimp
and he
cocktail.
wasn't enough he wasn't charismatic enough to get the actual man over there, but he killed almost everyone that voted for him. So that's how he got,
Hmm.
you know. All right, secrets or obstacles. Let's go, baby. I'm gonna flip to the
Next page.
203. Yeah, 203.
Yeah.
9. He turns he turns into a were tiger at night.
So
Okay.
the other wisdom class, he could be a druid.
Wow. Which goes with he's
The were
anti
tiger.
Sprock.
Yeah.
He turns into a were tiger at night, but he doesn't know what night is because there is no night in the Underdark. It's just
He
constant.
thinks it's random.
Yeah, but when the moon up top
Hmm.
revolves, he as a full moon, he
Hmm.
randomly turns. But I don't think he's no, he's intelligent to know that he did it. But that's the thing he's missing, the
Yeah.
chromosome. Okay, so he's a were tiger, doesn't know it.
Hmm.
And what are his wants and needs? Flip the page,
Next
201.
page. Wants and needs. Natural 20.
Oh boy, we love those. Who wants to sell you a second-hand horse and cart? Wants to sell you second-hand horse and cart. So maybe his.
His family business,
I mean,
how they
listen,
make money is
listen. The
a used
textiles.
car salesman.
Listen, he owns a lot. You know, his textiles. They has a lot of second-hand stuff, and he wants to sell you that.
He's not using it anymore and he doesn't want to maintain it or get rid of it. He doesn't want to dump the value.
Or here's the thing. Maybe there's something in that cart that is a tracking device. Or are
Mm.
you are you follower are you going down? Well, here, take this with you. Maybe he thinks that thing will help him.
Ah, interesting.
Doesn't necessarily
I
need to
like
be.
that.
Doesn't necessarily mean a family business. It could just mean
Doesn't mean he's
there's something in the
his,
cart he wants to sell you.
yeah, something
He wants
behind
to,
that
yeah, he
layer.
wants to sell you something he wants to sell you in the cart as a front.
I like that.
Um, I'm gonna write
Back to
cart.
205.
Let's see if you remember this in 8 years when we get
No,
to him.
I will not remember any of this.
I'm gonna try my hardest. I have it here. Um, oh, my turn. Brief description. Oh, this is
Yeah.
good. This is good. We're getting there. Oh, 2. Okay, rectangular head and a foxtail necktie.
Yeah.
So he also like what's a rectangular head?
His head is square,
He's missing
boxy.
missing a chromosome. And he wears a necktie, a foxtail necktie.
A fuzzy. What's a foxtail necktie? A fuzzy necktie?
Yeah, like a.
An actual fox's tail?
Let me look that up. I have to know this to get this image in my mind.
I know. I'm on Google right now.
Necktie.
A foxtail?
Here, foxtail necktie. Yeah. Yep.
All right, so he's a druid.
Can you see that? Hold on, where is it? There.
Where? Hold on. Yeah.
So he's insane. That's
He's in,
perfect.
he is insane.
That's his. So he looks like a clown. So Hero Forge, where we're going to be creating our guy, we're not going to be creating him tonight.
No, that's
I
gonna take way too long.
I have a deal, not a deal, but I have reached out to Hero Forge. We are going to first off roll high and subscribe. We are going to be using Hero Forge where we create all our minis for our games. Not to create money, but just because that's the best way we think digital Dungeons and Dragons should be played. I'm gonna be creating him. It's gonna be hilarious. I'll post his character image in the comments. But going forward, I will create something on OBS so we can click on a button and have Hero Forge and randomly make one
Nice.
for next time. But okay, so right now he's a rectangular head, foxtail
Mm-hmm.
necktie. He wants to sell you his cart. He's a were-tiger at night, and he carries around toxic shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
What is his last name? This is a big one. Oh
All
yeah,
right.
and he also wants to change reality.
Yeah.
His reality.
Yes. 203. Let's find out. 11. Argot.
Argot. Did we have an
Argot.
Argot before?
I don't think so.
Something Argot. All right, and his first name.
Prior page.
Yeah, 201. Come on, baby. Don't be weird. Amal Argot. I'll deal with it.
Amal. AA.
AM. Yeah, A squared. A Elvish for 2.
That's how he cheated, is he had everyone's vote automatically go to the first person on the ballot.
Yeah, he squared his Elvish language. The 2 in Elvish is Ata. But what's the symbol? I have no idea. I don't know what that is. There we go. It's like two J's together is 2 for
Two
Elvish
J's.
that are connected at the
Mm-hmm.
top. All right, so Amal Argot is the emperor of the of Trident is
Of
the name
Trident.
of
Yeah.
is in the middle dark. And he's got strong ties toward the Gray Skull. That's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's gonna lead us down there.
He's going to be insane, absolutely insane. And I cannot wait to world build this because how does he have mind flayers enslaved? There's going to be a lot of mind flayers there that are enslaved. There's going to be a lot of it is going to do with trading bodies. I got to figure out what bodies he's trading. Probably
Here's
going
how
to be.
you here's how you enslave your mind flayers. You enslave an elder brain.
Oh yeah,
Then everyone else, he controls all the other mind flayers beneath him.
interesting. Or
That's his personal army
maybe he has the last tadpoles of of a colony
of the
held.
Gray Colony
Yeah, and so yeah,
of Lumerthric.
yep. Maybe his connection to the. I don't know. He's gonna have some powerful items.
Hmm.
Certainly, that's giving him some juice because his stats.
Well, he may not have items. He may just have a feat connecting him to something,
Yeah.
giving him all sorts of power. He doesn't need items on him.
Why
He is
don't
insane.
you roll his? Now we know he's a drow, which means he's a drow. Isn't that his
Yeah.
race? That's his
Hmm.
race.
Yep.
Why don't you roll his class
Oh,
just from the basics, or should we open it up?
I mean, if you want to do the full D12
Yeah.
of anything, I mean, his stats are reasonable. A
To
lot
just
of
pick one.
12s.
Should we just pick one?
No, I'll roll it. I'll happily roll.
We don't gamble at
Amel
casinos.
Fargots
We only gamble at 4 years of
2.
gameplay.
Let's see. Let's pull up this little handy
That's going to be
dandy.
a barbarian, isn't it?
No, gotta put you away. You away. This is weird. A bard.
Wow.
A
Wow.
terrible bard.
Terrible bard.
He tries to sing or play an instrument and
Hit
just
they're out
is
of tune.
horrible out of it. Yeah.
Out of tune. That's funny. He's a bard. Whew. So I feel like
That's why it looks ridiculous with that foxtail tie.
he's going to have something that makes him a little bit more intelligent than he is, but he's going to be very manipulative. He's got to be very manipulative, which is why he wants to sell you his cart. Maybe maybe he just like does the Trojan horse type thing to everyone.
Yeah.
He's intelligent enough to know that Trojan horse works. He's not charismatic enough to know that everyone knows that it already happened. Like he's done it to everyone.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Love it. Amal
Well,
Argot.
roll high and subscribe.
Roll high and subscribe. We'll be playing him in probably
Couple years.
couple years, but we'll keep that on the back burner.
We'll see.
Until then, we will be back in 2 weeks for Let's Talk Lore. On Monday night. Yeah, Monday night, 8 o'clock. Chris is DMing. Very excited. Don't want any dragons.
Everyone is waking up for the first morning in the Wandering Mountains.
And if Aaron's there, we might have a.
Well, yeah, that has to happen.
We might have a Darth Vader incident
with all of those friendly guards around.
That's gonna be sick. Aaron might die. I'm gonna tell him on like, hey, just a side note.
Make a backup character.
Yeah, make a backup character who's not a were-tiger. Until then, roll high, subscribe. This was fun. Let's talk lore. We'll see you in 2 weeks.